First, when we had this discussion back in December, a lot of passion around it. Obviously, it's something that's been simmering for a long time. But we, the committee, Auxiliaries and Coalitions Committee, committed to come today with a path forward. We met a lot between, not as much as legislative priorities. Those hats on. We've hashed it out, and we've determined that the fault is not in the bylaws, but in the implementation of those bylaws and the spirit behind those bylaws. I'll get to in a second. Rather than tweak and adjust these bylaws, eliminate them entirely, our focus has been at how do we use to bring the most value to the Republican Party as possible. We ask for y'all to give us the space to realize, get it done over the next. I also want to speak quickly to related to our auxiliaries. First, when David Wiley's done yeoman's work.
David Wiley's done yeoman's work contacting these auxiliaries to make sure they still want to continue as auxiliaries with the party. And to an organization, everyone has voiced that they want to continue, they see value in the status, and they would encourage others to do so. In fact, 2 new organizations that were not at all pressured to become auxiliaries have asked to do so. The 150 Black Men and the One TFRW has been brought up around this partnership discussion, which we'll get to soon. The only reason we're talking about that is because they specifically asked us to consider it, same with TFCCA. We're not just making these things up because we want to complicate structures. We're trying to be responsive to the organizations that we value our partnerships with, and we're working to accommodate needs so we can strengthen our bonds and work more closely together. So on this and grow the party. Thank you, Chris. Talking about Republican women, I couldn't do it without folks like Chris. So against this motion, I really believe in this committee. I believe that we've gotten it together, we've got a path forward, and we can bring a lot of value to the party if we just give a space to get the work done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cheever. Ms. Glover, you're recognized.
Bill Glover, SB 12. My mind has been changed. I'm a believer now in this committee. I had agreed with Rolando before. I didn't see how we were going to be effective as a committee. That has changed. Pastor Broden, you have done an incredible job as chairman. Absolutely incredible. And I'm excited what the committee is going to be able to do. And this is
Brandon Moore just told me if we step closer with that hand mic because the receiver is up here.
How's this? Here we go. Proceeding forward in the direction that Pastor Broden is taking us, I think that we are going to be able to do some wonderful things with this committee. And I want to say something to the idea of gatekeeping. We are a gatekeeper. Let's just be honest about it. Because being a Republican means something, right? And so if you be officially affiliated with a party in some way, then you do have to demonstrate that you are a Republican in your mission statement. And so, yes, in that sense we are. Does that mean other groups can't work on the same things we do? Of course they can. And we're happy for them to do that. But it is important for us to make sure that the groups that work with us are Republican. But other than that, many of these groups bring an energy to the party, they bring new ideas, they bring freshness, and we need that. And so it is certainly a wonderful engagement vehicle, and I am against this motion. Thank you.
Please recognize.
My name is Brandon Kaiser. I'm the state chairman for College Republicans. I just wanted to quickly speak against this amendment. Standpoint, being an auxiliary and being officially recognized by the party is the only thing that protects us against our national organization. This national organization is mainly northeastern Republicans who, at any chance they get will seek to delegitimize any federation that doesn't agree with them. They've done it in several states. They try to do it here. The only thing that has saved us is being an auxiliary of and having the backing of the party. And so I strongly speak against getting rid of this committee.
Thank you. You recognize?
Good morning, Chairman, and good morning, Board. I'm talking on behalf of, I'm proxy for the Texas Young Republicans. I'm Chelsea, I'm the secretary, and I'm the proxy for Nation. The Youngins have always been close partners with the auxiliaries of the RPT. We believe both are stronger for that official relationship and wish to continue in its current form. If y'all get rid of it, I mean, it's like pushing us aside. And we've done a lot of work for the Republican Party of Texas, so I'm speaking against the motion of getting rid of auxiliaries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Mr. George?
I am Abraham George. I'm speaking against this amendment. When it comes to November, we need everybody to bend, especially in the state of Texas now, because turning blue all the time. Every election cycle, it's getting worse. You all believe in the border wall, right? That's what the auxiliary committee is. Because we have to know who we can associate with, who we can put people inside of this party organization. So the auxiliary committee actually makes that decision, but they don't make the final decision. It comes to you all. So the biggest issue, what I understand, I'm a freshman on this, is a lot of people are worried about certain organizations becoming an auxiliary. That's what it is about, right? So all of us ask our legislators to stand on their ground. When it comes to take a stand, I'm asking you all the same thing. When it comes to a certain organization, if you don't like it, take a stand. Stand up. You know, if you like them, vote for them. But getting rid of auxiliary committee altogether just because you're worried about a certain group, that's the wrong way to do this. We're Republicans, we're not Democrats. We don't do business like that. So I'm speaking against this amendment.
Dr. Wesley, you recognize?
Thank you, sir. Dr. Wesley, I'm your party historian, and also I'm the president of the 151st Black Men of Texas here. Republican Strong Trailblazers. You all just voted to make us an auxiliary with this great party less than 2 hours ago. It would be tragic that we didn't last that long. Secondly, I must state to you all that by applying for our organization, but I saw the former vice chair, she's in the back, Alma Jackson, all the way in the back, I saw her come in with the Once Again organization. For us, I can speak and tell you that without having this recognition going into the black community to try to grow the minority base, which you all can agree we desperately need in the state of Texas and throughout this nation, this is the foundation that allows me to go into those communities. When they ask, what are you standing on? I'm standing on the foundation of the Republican Party of Texas. Without that foundation, it's going to be difficult to sell the story. So I stand against striking this auxiliary, and I want you all to do the same. God bless you.
Ms. Knowlton, you recognize?
Yes.
Step forward.
Yes. Marion Knowlton, get rid of this. I'm a Republican. We don't deal in identity politics. We deal on principle. and we know what our values are, and if people want to join our party, they join based on what we believe. I've changed my mind. I sat on, as I said, people came in, we really didn't have any, we didn't know what was going on, and it was unsatisfying. I see what Pastor Roden has done, and you're moving forward. I think that you might, as a body, look at these bylaws and try to refine them going forward, but I don't think that it's time to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And what really convinced me, last night I met Brandon Kaiser, Texas College State President, is that right, Brandon? Chair. And Brandon, I always looked at this committee as what can they do for us? What are the auxiliaries and the coalitions going to do for our state party? But in talking to Brandon, he let me know that it wasn't really all about us, it's about what we can do for them.
That's right.
How could we support him in his mission? He's under attack as a conservative. He's under attack as a Republican president, chairman. So it's not always about us, but it's how we can support the groups that are out there. Now, do we need to be vigilant? Yes. Do we need to have an adequate vetting system for these people? Absolutely. But we need to be supporting these folks who want to support the conservative values that make Texas great and that will keep Texas great. My opinion, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones?
Grace Jones, SD 20. I'm speaking against, it's been stated that this committee has been ineffective, and it's apparent that based on the work that Pastor Roden and the committee are doing right now, that story has changed, and we need to consider that. Absent of that, if for whatever reason the committee continued to be ineffective or anything like that took place, I do believe that if we were going to strike any language, we would need to have substitutionary language in place, ready to go, in order to provide for that committee to be effective. I don't believe completely doing away with it. You're stopping this moving train. It's going to be so much harder to get it going again. And even before, I supported striking it completely, substituting it. However, it seems that we're solving a problem that may no longer exist. So let's just give it a chance to work moving forward and then revisit it later if it's necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mr. Carr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Carr, SD 22. I cannot help but fall back on my military training to give an analysis here. One of the principles of successful warfare is you take all available materials and assets to the battlefield. Why would we want to leave off the battlefield an element that can expand our power? If you think we are not in a battle for our constitutional republic, you need to rethink your position. That's whatever we can have to support our efforts as conservative Republicans, we need to do that. We don't need to leave our assets off the battlefield.
Chair Parks?
Thank you, Chairman. It's unusual for the Vice Chair, and has been in the past, for the Vice Chair to vote. It's more unusual, perhaps, for the Vice Chair to join you from the floor. I want to commend Rolando for bringing this up, because I believe that regardless of the outcome of this vote today, he launched action into moving forward. So some of you know who stood in this committee meeting I was with Rolando that we needed to see action. We desperately need to see us reaching out in our ranks. And so I want to commend you, Rolando, because difficult discourse coming up, challenging things is a way we make changes and we move the ball forward. So thank you for doing that. Also, Chairman Rowe, this function is exactly as it's supposed to, with all of us working together and reaching out and growing our party in the way that we I've been working very closely with all these things. The one thing that I see that is not acknowledged is how do we reach out to more of, as Ron Cooper said, to people where they are and to grow them and to educate them and to bring them in. And so I will be voting against this, Rolando, with all due respect to you as a colleague, and I thank you for bringing this discussion forward because we need to move the ball down the field. And I think that by doing this,
Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
Is there a second to the calling of the question? It has so been moved and seconded that we end the debate on this bylaw. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We have ended the debate. It is moved and seconded that the amendment as projected be adopted. Press 1A if you are in favor. Press 2B if you are opposed. Press 3C if you are abstaining. The vote is now open. Vote is open.
So the chairman has abandoned the gavel, so he'll have to do push-ups when he comes back.
Roy Morello's. Dinner.
Four, three, two, one. The vote is now closed. Ms. Stanhope, you're recognized. Please, we can keep the sidebar chatters down. Come closer, please, for the...
Advocate for doing something different with auxiliaries and coalitions. I applaud the members today for, in the Rules Committee and in the Coalitions Committee, I voted against this motion. And I hope that the Auxiliaries and Committee will work very closely with the Bylaws Committee as we reform and correct anything that we can do from a bylaws standpoint, because we do want to have those kinds of affiliates, partnerships, auxiliary.
Thank you, Ms. Stanhope. The vote is 3 yeas, 58 nays, 1 abstain. The measure is defeated.
partnership status.
It's not an order this time, but you can offer it when we get to new business. I mean, one.
Mr. Chairman, the final order of business of this committee was a new bylaw that would and debate that. So I'm using this time to put the body on notice that we will notice that for the next meeting. Mr. Chairman, thank you. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Next, we will have the report of the legislative parties.
Oh my goodness, guys. Legislative Priorities Committee. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for elevating this committee, for making our legislative priorities so important for this legislative session. So when we began this committee, a couple things were happening. It was actually was critical. We certainly didn't have any idea how important these priorities were going to be after the election fiasco, right? And so, as Chairman West described yesterday, right now at the national level, we're looking at in ways that we never dreamed would happen, right? So our delegates got it right last July. They voted election integrity number 1, religious freedom number 2, and they got it exactly right. So, our community is bring our A game, because truly the life and liberty of our children is at stake, our nation is at stake, and Texas is but strategy in the past really relied more on relationship building, lots and lots of time being spent at the Capitol, and all of those things are good. But as I think we can all agree, at last session it was not enough. Our grassroots and our looking at what was actually accomplished with our legislative parties, we didn't make it. They weren't accomplished. We got a little piece of religious liberty. To the people, to our voters, to our Republican delegates, our grassroots, in all of the districts across the state. Because when it comes right down to it, who listens to the voices of people, right? It's our representatives. They don't listen to the RPT chairman, they don't listen so much to the SREC, but they listen to their constituents in their districts. And we knew that those were the people that our representatives needed to hear from. So we decided to partner with all of our large grassroots groups and small ones all across the state, because we know that there's lots and lots of muscle, experience, determination in these various grassroots groups. So I'll throw out a few things. I don't want to say that I'm going to name them all because there's so many and I will forget some. But we determined to put some of the non-SREC working group members on our subcommittees as representatives from some of these grassroots groups, so that we could help marshal the energy behind those. So we have someone from Gun Owners of America, we have someone from Texas Values, we have someone from Grassroots America, we someone from, I don't know that we have a True Texas Project, but we've worked with them. We've worked with all of these groups who are largely Republican voters, but they've got the energy and they've got the ability to help us get our legislative priorities passed. So that was our strategy. And let me just tell you kind of how it's working. So our committee has spoken to over 120 different groups that include Republican clubs, conservative groups, county executive committees, TFRW groups, rallies. We've done radio interviews, a podcast. We've created a PowerPoint presentation that has gotten better as it's gone from committee member to committee member, and I think we've probably even had some outside help from SRECs not on our committee. We've had lots of people jump in and help what we have been doing better. We have reached over, just directly, we have reached over 7,000 people in these 120 events. And we have also revived our stat group under the leadership of Tanya and Dave Wiley. Tanya Robertson and Dave Wiley have done an excellent job with our stat group. They started with about 1,200 members left over. I think perhaps in the last session it's grown to 3,000, but they have made over 20,000 contacts about our legislative priorities to those folks. So that has been tremendous. The LP report is going out to over 200,000. Our chairman, our committee members have submitted testimony, written and in person. So they put in hours and hours, much sweat and tears. So if you are on our Legislative Priorities Committee, please stand. Some non-committee members who have also been presenting our legislative priorities. And so even if you're not on our committee, you've presented our PowerPoint or our presentation on our legislative priorities. Would you stand too? Because I know we've got a few. Yep. 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 Don't be shy. Thank you guys. So I so appreciate the work of this committee. We have gone as far north as Wichita Falls. We are about to be in Corpus Christi weekend for our rally down south. We have gone west to El Paso. We have gone east, I don't know, Mount Pleasant, Marshall, Longview, all out that direction. We have gone all across the state. So what is the result so far of our strategy? We have 60 approved legislative priority bills that have been filed. 60. Let me explain just a little bit. You know, there are many, you guys know, there's hundreds and hundreds, thousands of bills that are filed, right? And, you know, many of them are in the area of our legislative priority, but we have to narrow down those bills and choose the ones that meet the priority the way the priority is written. And so 60 may not sound like a lot compared to all the bills that our representatives and senators filed, but our delegates gave us a specific charge, right? And so those legislative priorities are written in a certain way. So the fact that we've got 60 bills that meet the priority the way that the delegates wanted it is a tremendous accomplishment. So that's excellent. We have had hearings on 5 of our priorities, 9 bills total have been heard. We've got 2 passed out of committee that will have a floor vote in the Senate. So that's good progress. As Chairman West said yesterday, we're halfway through this session. So at this point, my biggest concern is that we are running out of time, right? So we, for example, gender modification has not been scheduled for a hearing yet, and that is a critical priority to protect our children. Right? So at this point, we're turning our attention now to targeting the committee chairs and the committee members to put pressure on and ask for a hearing and a vote. It's critical at this point. Resources, and I want to come back to continuing our strategy and how we're going to wrap up in just a minute, but I do want to talk about resources. help get our message out to the voters. We've created a drop-down menu item on texasgop.org. I know everybody has seen it. And let me just say at this point, we could not have done a lot of these resources without Marie Straughter, who has been helping us with our website resources. So thank you, Marie. I think she's here, but thank you. So what all we have done on that menu drop-down, we have got legislative priority report, our stat group sign up. We have the stat Facebook sign up there. We've got a list of all of our approved bills and where they are in the process. So you can see a bill list. We have an email template. One thing that we have found as going around the state is that many people don't know how to engage with their legislators, right? They don't know how to contact them, and then once they do, they don't know what to say. So we've literally given them the words to say. We've got a digital guide that has all our talking points for each of our legislative priorities. So we have been trying to give every kind of resource that we can think of to make it simple for them to engage and express their opinions. So the very best thing that I'm incredibly excited about now is something that has come out of East Texas, and I do want to give former SREC's Bob Kessick and Sue Evanwell credit for this idea, but it's a postcard. And many of you have seen these postcards, but on the back of it, it has all our legislative with a checkbox next to each of them. It has a blank in case people have additional priorities that they want to write in, and then a place to sign. And then on the front of the postcard, they put their contact information, their email, and then the name of their rep or their senator. And here's what we do. Whenever we speak, whenever we have opportunity in front of a group to pass out this card, we do that. And we explain to people that they may check one or all of the legislative priorities that they care about and they want legislation passed on. We then take the postcards back up and we make arrangements to hand deliver those postcards to their reps and their senators. So it could not be easier to register a position with their elected official. So we have brought 10,000 of these postcards today, and I will say that we've asked for donations for the printing of those cards. I was able to raise $600 alone just from TFRW clubs and Republican clubs by explaining to them what we were doing, and people were handing over anywhere from $2 to $100 to cover the cost of the printing. And so I've got bundles of them, and if you would like a bundle, they're right over here behind them, and feel free to pick up a bundle. And if we run out, I've got the template, I can send it to you. I've got an order form, and I encourage you to take these to your clubs and donations, because one thing that we have found traveling the state is people are angry, people are nervous, they're scared for their country, and they want something to do, right? So we've got the answer. We have something for them to do, and so they want to contribute. They want to do something literally at this point to save our state and save our nation. And that's what these legislators represent. So to wrap up, what's next? We're halfway through the process. We must double down on everything that we're doing. We must finish this. We've got to have some renewed energy. I'm real happy to say that the Young Republicans have just offered to come help us, and they're going to inject, I think, some enthusiasm and some energy at this point. But we need all of our groups, our clubs, our organizations to continue what we've started and bring this home. And again, I want to thank you all so much. And to answer the question, how are we going to define success? Because some people have asked, well, how do you know that you're going to succeed? I will say voters in the districts will determine whether or not we've been successful, because they will be able to look at the product of the legislative session, at the performance of their representative or senator, and decide if they send him or her back next time, right? And so we have raised voter awareness. Voters are more engaged, they're more active, they know more what's going on, and they're They're expressing their opinions to their elected officials. And that's the way it should be, right? The government is by the people. It's the people's government. And so, in some ways, I think for us, as a Legislative Parties Committee and the SREC, it's a win-win, no matter what happens. If we get all of our legislative parties' legislation passed, we've won. If we haven't, but our voters now are engaged and are more active in selecting their representatives, we've won with that too, right? So we will see at the end of the session, but I sincerely hope that we get the priorities passed that will save our state. So thank you all so much. And we do have a couple of committee members to approve. Okay, one more quick thing, and thank you so much for reminding me. Maggie Witt has also is doing another engagement resource, and she's got a petition for the legislative priorities, and so please sign Maggie's petition. And Maggie, thank you for doing that, and I know you've been working the North Texas area with that really well too. Yes. And I want to make sure I point out Tom Novus, who's without his technology and administrative skills, he cannot do what he can. Okay, now I hope I haven't left anybody else out, but Mr. Chairman.
Chair hereby appoints SREC members Gail Stanner, Naomi Narvaez, and Frank Lopez as additional members to the Legislative Priorities Committee. If there is no objection, I ask that they be confirmed. Hearing no objection, they are confirmed. We now have the report of the Engagement Committee, former Chair Alma Jackson.
Good morning. It's almost noon. We had a great meeting yesterday. We started at 11:33 is when we called the meeting to order. Out of 13 members, we had 10 in attendance. Will all engagement committee members please stand? Thank you. We had a great discussion. And I always request a report, even if it's one sentence long, from each member before the next SRC meeting to let us know what they are doing in the way of engagement. I received 3 reports. We've had a pretty hectic January and February, so several were not able to turn anything in. But we have all committed to do more before our next meeting. So much for all of us to do. Engagement is very, very important. How we address people and how we put our message forth, where we get them to listen in a very polite manner, but we open their eyes to the truth. And my whole purpose with engagement is to let people know the difference between the two parties. And when I hear there is no difference between the two parties, that's just not true. And I try to very politely point out the differences. Joe Waltz from SD18. Are you in here, Joe? He's not here. Okay, thank you. He and Edie Sinclair in Senate District 18 are hosting a great meeting on April 10th with numerous guest speakers. And that's quite a bit of engagement because the topics that they're going to be discussing are important and they're circulating. Issues are very important. If we just bring up issues, you'd be surprised how we can get people's attention. Especially when you tell someone that the Democrat Party is very big on high taxes. And they, what? No, it's the rich Republicans that want the high taxes. They're completely misinformed, folks. And that is our job, to bring the truth to them. That's why this is so important. Engagement should be at the top, and I hope that every county chairman across this state is doing engagement, because we've got to get our message out. We have a good, positive message, and it's all in our platform. Robin Hayes, she's engaging daily in her role as a county chairman. I don't know how you can not engage if you are a county chairman. There is a lot to do. And then we had Maggie Witt. Maggie Witt is a spitfire. That little tiny lady was daring us to go and engage the crowd yesterday. I'm very for engagement, but I said no. And Carlos Coscos was talking about me. He was tempted to get out there and engage, but no, Maggie would have gone out there by herself if we, oh, she's something else. But Maggie is really, really working. I wish we had a lot of Maggies in the Republican Party. She's been writing petitions for legislative priorities. She's been recruiting uninvolved Republicans. That's right there. That's I can't think of the word, but it's like reaping tenfold when we bring in people who have never been involved because they're excited and their eyes have been opened and they get excited to tell others about what we're doing. I'm very big on opportunity, taking opportunities whenever they come up. Brandon, slide number 1, please. This was a man, I met this man at a grocery store in San Antonio. And believe me, ASS was on that shirt. So I approached him and I said, "Sir, are you attempting to make a statement?" And he turned around and I tell you, he was an angry elephant. He said, "You bet I am. I'm so fed up with the Democrats and how they stole the election." And he went on and on and on. And so I said, "I'm a Republican. Calm down." We were making a scene in the vegetable department. But anyway, I got to talking to him, and just talking to him, I asked him if he'd ever been involved, and he said, "No, but it's time I did something." And I wanted to ask him for his phone number, but I was so afraid he'd think I was just an old cougar trying to find a young man. I let it go, but he got my name, he got my number, he got my email. And he remembered my name. He didn't write it down because as we continued with our shopping, I met him again in another aisle, and he says, Alma, what did you say your last name was?" And he says, "I'll be contacting you." So I was just real excited. Who knows how many more this man's going to bring in? But, I mean, it's out there everywhere. There is just so much that we can do. We had a lot of discussion. 3 times I had to drag it back to engagement because we kind of get off course. But we had a very good meeting. A lot of ideas were expressed. And personal responsibility for their own families, for their own situations, for their own lives, we would all be better off. If you can see down in the abyss, you've got people there with needs. The conservative solution we provide is opportunity to improve yourself and to do well. In this country, there is no excuse for no success. We are still in the greatest country on the face of this earth, even with all the issues and problems that we have. And this raise your taxes to produce more programs. And what have they done? Just But that concludes my report. It's short. Our message is right there. And I just the party for success. We need to get another President Trump into our party. Stay engaged and put that out, and I thank you all.
Now the report of the Election Integrity Committee, Ms. Dion Starnes.
You know, election integrity isn't just important in Texas. It is a nationwide thing, right? On that note, the Republican National Committee is actually forming their own election integrity committee. And from what I understand, they're planning and in some cases already working with Congress and the states, the state legislature, the grassroots, and the parties. On strengthening the voter integrity laws and initiatives that we're seeing in all of the states. Where is Drew? Regional director. I think I've got that right, over 5 states. We gave a report to our committee yesterday on what the RNC is actually doing for election integrity, and as he said, all he is hearing is the priority for the RNC is actually election integrity, number 2, election integrity, and number 3 was election integrity. Was that it? Okay. So even the RNC, this is not something that is just held to Texas. And while we have some people that would like to say that, oh, elections were fine in November. We fared better than Georgia. We fared better than Arizona. We fared better than Pennsylvania and Michigan. But guys, it doesn't mean that we don't have problems, right? And those problems can be fixed. Drew, thank you. You're going to hang around, right? And if y'all have questions about the RNC's election integrity initiatives, I would encourage you to go talk to him, ask him questions, and he will be happy to give you his contact information. Sustainability and training. Guys, let me just tell you that, and we talked about this a little bit, when I took this over, there wasn't really any structure, right? There wasn't a handbook. Right? So we need to be in a position where we are no longer just gearing up during election time. This has got to be a 365-day, 24-hour, 7 days a week initiative on our part, and that takes time. So, hang on just a second. One of the things that we talked about in order to get this accomplished is making this a committee, a standing committee instead of a special committee. The Rules Committee is currently working on a proposal along those lines, and the Election Integrity Committee members yesterday are discussing what they would recommend to that. It is a great example of how we have to partner together. We may be on different committees, guys, but we all bear responsibility and we all have to work together, right? Otherwise, it doesn't work. I want to give a shout out, especially to Tanya Robertson. What'd you do now? Everything. No, guys, my last point is we are knee deep in the legislative session, right? Our number one priority is election integrity, but it is held to a very narrow focus, voter registration. right? Tanya is the head of that. She has invited me in on their calls. We have gotten very close with our multitude of calls, right? Walking through bills. She'll text me sometime and go, oh, we can't do this one, but take a look at this bill, right? It fits with what y'all are working on. And I so appreciate the fact that when she'll call me, or I will call her and go, hey, I have a problem with this bill, or you need to be careful, or I really like this bill, can you please approve it, right? We work together as a team, and that's the only way that this is going to get done. I want to say something that people don't really realize. I have spent the last few months talking with legislators. I guess what you would call shopped legislation, where I am taking them issues that need to be addressed. And I can't tell you how very responsive our Republican legislators have been. They are listening, they are taking it, they are getting it done, and they are fighting for it. I am watching them fight for it. And that's important to me, right? And so even when I go, like, I really like your bill, but I got some concerns. I can't tell you how much they have done to make sure that those concerns are addressed and get committee substitutes done, right? They're listening, and I want to give them a shout out because I think, you know, we're really good about pointing out that we're not happy, but sometimes we forget to tell them that we are happy. And for me, I am very pleased that at least the ones that I have worked with have been very responsive. I will say that there have been a couple that kids sometimes just got to shake their head and walk away, guys. I don't know what else to say. We have a lot of good bills, right? But let me tell you how many bills that we have in the Senate alone, and this was as of or through March 12th. In the Senate, 102 bills that deal only with election law and voter integrity. In the House, 286 that deal with election law or voter integrity. That's a whole lot of bills to be going through, right? So one of the things that we need to do, and that I have been told, these guys need our support on their good bills, right? And we have to get educated in order to do that. Because let me tell you something, if we go and we make a misstep in a committee hearing, that's fodder for a lawsuit from the Democrats. Right? So we have to be careful. We have to be educated in what we're doing. So I will say that beginning next Saturday, a week from today, the Election Integrity Committee will be having a weekly call to discuss the bills that are coming up in both the House and the Senate election committees. There's been some discussion, do we open it up to the public, or is it going to be held to the committee and the SREC? That has not been decided. We will be talking with the parliamentarian and legal counsel to find out, you know, what are the ramifications. The last thing that we need to do is to allow Democrats on our calls to know what our discussion points are so that they can formulate their own talking points in opposition to what we're saying, right? So we've got to be very careful, but at the very least, I am so excited, guys. We have got election integrity groups springing up all over Texas. I mean, all over Texas. I get calls, I've got a group of 20, I've got a group of 80, I've got a group of 100, right? How many of you know that Tony Ann DeShield does a Friday morning call at 7 a.m.? Yeah? How many of you actually get up and are on that call? Yeah, I do make the call. My video is off, right? I don't generally speak, but it has been so good, right? We have had Briscoe Kane on there, right? We have had Jaton. We've had so many. Candy Noble was on there. Dave Bossy talking about HR 1. Guys, if we don't get this legislation through, and HR 1 passes, we're looking at 7 to 10 years of litigation to even do anything. And a whole lot of damage can be done in 7 to 10 years, right? A lot of damage can be done in a year. We have got to be fighting this on several fronts. And we want to make sure that we are providing information, resources to all of these election integrity groups so that we can spread out the word and we can get them mobilized and they can begin to contact the legislators. So The one action item that I'm going to ask that you do is pick one bill. Guys, there are 388 bills to go through. I have got pages of notes, and it's getting to the point where I am sitting there going, what bill was that in again? Didn't I read that somewhere? And I go, I can't find it. What bill was this, right? Pick a bill, read it, give me a synopsis of it. Do I need to bother, right? So we can begin to get through some of these bills, and we can actually work as a team to act with one voice. And with that, I cede back my time.
The chair hereby appoints SREC member Mary Jane Avery as a member of the Election Integrity Committee. If there is no objection, I ask that she be confirmed. Hearing no objection, she is confirmed to the Election Integrity Committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, you recognize Mr. Atwood.
Yes, many of you know that Bill Fairbrother has been called and severely injured his leg. He's not here. It's going to be a long road. I just ask that we take a minute and put him in prayer.
Everyone stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. There is no other unfinished business or general orders. We will go to new business. First order in new business, I hereby appoint Mike Ledbetter as county chairman. Is there any other new business? Yes, sir. Mr. Cheever.
Sean Sheehan, ST17, I move the adoption of the notice bylaws amendment establishing a partnership status under AAC.
Okay, can you slow down so I can write all that down? I mean, talk like you from New York. Motion to...
That's Dave's Chairman. Motion to move adoption of the noticed bylaws amendment establishing a partner status under auxiliaries and coalitions.
Bylaws amendment establishing
A partnership status under the auxiliaries and coalitions.
Would you like this motion?
Yes, sir. So Sean Sheehan, ST17. This bylaws amendment was not...
Please keep the sidebar conversations down.
So this bylaws amendment was not part of the Rules Committee report because it was in conflict with that committee's recommendation that the coalition committee be scrapped. Now that we've gotten past that, I'd like to bring that up for consideration by this body. Okay, as we mentioned during that discussion, the reason that we're bringing this idea
The reason that we're bringing this idea to the body is because we were specifically requested to consider